I cannot wait for you to meet my two guests today who have created lives that are living out giant goals with global impact. Join me as we ask them how they handle the obstacles to change the world while also living out their everyday lives. Let's go. Hello, I am Donnell Reese, and today I have two guests on my show. Both of them are new friends that I have recently had the pleasure of meeting, and after only just a few minutes of chatting with them, I knew that I had to introduce them to my podcast audience. I wish you had hours to spend with each one of them and to hear their complete stories, but I've summed them up so we can get to the meat of what we want to talk about today. They both have taken on what an outsider might view as Goliath goals, and they have created lives of extraordinary generosity with global impact. And I am not kidding. That's why I am so excited for you to get to hear the ins and the outs of what it is that they get to do. In the face of all of the crazy that is going on in our world, both of these women were able to cut through the noise and listen to the simple call of God in their hearts. What they've accomplished is totally different and unique, but what they have in common is so similar. Both have had to look past their own fears and feelings of insecurity and inadequacy, and even the lack of resources to step out to accomplish really amazing things. First, I want to introduce you to Sara Alsup. Sara and her husband Bobby have 3 children, a 16-year-old daughter and 2 sons who are 13 and 11. During the process of adopting their youngest son, Mosi, from the Congo, Sara says that she started to pray that God would use her in some way. She specifically remembers praying that God would use her as putty. It was in those prayers that her heart really became open to the need in Congo to provide support for an orphanage. Immediately, they opened up a home for 10 children. Without a firm plan of where the resources were even going to come from, Sara and Bobby committed to take it on and began raising support, finding sponsors for kids, and among their friends and family members holding all kinds of fundraisers. Bobby owns a landscaping business, and Sara grew up on a cotton farm. And she jokes that she may be one of the few people her age who have actually hand chop cotton. My grandparents talk about doing that. As they look at how to meet the needs of the orphanage, the idea for Thrive Flower Farm was born. All of the proceeds from the flower farm go directly to support the orphanage. And now, 8 years later, together with other sponsors, they're currently supporting 29 children. Just gives me chills. And have built a large home with a capacity to safely care for 50 kids. Next up, I want to introduce to you Krista Thomason. Krista and her husband have 3 grown children, 1 grandson. Oh, you know how good that is. And Krista credits a mission trip in her teens to the Philippines that initially got her attention focused on a bigger world outside of her little bubble in the U.S. Years later, a series of connections opened Krista's eyes even further. She and her husband were pastoring, and whether it was at a conference she was attending or books she was reading or even documentaries she was watching on PBS, it seemed like she kept hearing the same message over and over again. Isn't God good that way? Mm-hmm. That he had something for her to do to partner with people who were marginalized and needing help around the world. She just wasn't sure at the time exactly what. Then in 2015, while volunteering at a local ministry focused on helping victims of human trafficking, Krista suddenly knew what she needed to do. And it was actually a simple everyday problem that gave her the idea. Every woman knows, amen, out there if you hear this one, how hard it is to find great fitting pants that are affordable. One day, while thinking about this problem, a light bulb went off in Krista's mind, and she thought, what if she could work with a group of vulnerable women in another country to make great pants, something that we all need, This would give the women a dignified source, a dependable income that would remove their risk of vulnerability. She was sure she had friends in the States who would love to support the cause while also getting a great pair of pants. Krista took this basic idea and she ran with it. She partnered with friends in Cambodia, a country that has been close to her heart. And soon she had established relationships with a group of ladies that she began selling the finished clothing items in the U.S., first from her home, later from a storefront. After COVID, Krista closed down the storefront location, and the work in Cambodia, though, remained. She now is focused on providing income for these women through a preschool that will benefit children and families in the community. Welcome, ladies. So honored to have you here today.
It's really good to be here.
If people out there are a little bit like me and they're listening and they're looking at our world today, and everybody has seen a little bit of the news, whether you try to or not, everything happening in Israel, Haiti, Ukraine, the issues with homelessness, border issues, and on and on. It is so easy to feel overwhelmed and at a loss as to how to make a difference in our world. Even if we are followers of Jesus, even if that is the deepest desire of our heart, what would you say to them? Sara, we'll start with you.
Well, I would say turn the media off.
That's right.
I'm just kidding. First thing, everybody has something right in front of them that they can do. Yeah. And so, those problems are big and overwhelming. I mean, just one conversation with somebody, you can learn something new that you didn't know about, or hear something new every day. But if you look around to what is right here or in your community, something that you can help, those are available. And so just jump in prayerfully, Yeah.
Krista, what about you?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is the world's already been saved. That's not our job.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's happened, but each one of us can do something to make the world better for someone else. Mm-hmm. And I think that the overwhelm comes from the enemy, so that we won't do anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we can just look at what's around us across the street or across the world and find ways that we can help other people.
Mm-hmm. So I hear you both saying the same thing, is like the micro decisions to do something, even if it seems small, make macro impact in our world. I love that. I want to know from each of you, because this podcast is about faith. It is about how it impacts us, therefore impacts our community, and the questions that it makes us wrestle with. What role did your faith play in your decision to begin and then to sustain your organization? Either one of you jump in.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. That's a kind of a hard question, because I've always known Jesus. I've not known a life without him. So it's just part of my life. And I think it's a response to what he's done for me. Mm-hmm. And that I want to love him with everything that I have and everything he's given me. And yes, it takes a lot of faith and a lot of stretching even to do things that I'm enjoying doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sara?
I think, I'm the same as Krista. I grew up in church and with two parents that know Jesus. And, but the thing that keeps me going or what started that is just, I like to help people. And so sometimes that's I maybe overdo it, because you can go and go and go. But that's just what we do, you help people, and I don't know. So, I know God's with me when I'm doing those things. So, it makes me feel good. And I know that he's put those things in front of us if you're mindful of that, Mm-hmm. I am not mindful of it all the time. So, but I try to be, and looking back, seeing what he already did, the faith piece because we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we had no clue, and just one day at a time, and that's all you can do.
Yeah. What is there a particular scripture or a particular memory from your childhood, something that, because of the faith, really guided you or compelled you forward into the life that you've chosen to live?
It depends on the day. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah. There are, a couple that I always think about, and I really like James. I feel like I could read James every day. Yeah. I'm a list person, and so it's just, hey, do these things. This is going to glorify God, and so keep doing those things. But the fact that I know that he has things planned out for, like, not that I have to do them, but there are options. Like, I get to choose to participate in what he has planned out. And so that verse, and then, I had to write it down so I don't forget, but the James 4:17, if you know the good that you're supposed to do and you don't do it, it's sin. Mm-hmm. And so I want to make sure that you're supposed to take care of helpless people. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to do that.
Yeah. That's an example we see in Jesus, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So good. I like that. What about you, Krista?
I think probably the ones that I keep coming back to would be to love others as I love myself, because I'm never going to let myself go hungry. I'm never going to let my kids, as much as I can help them out, be in a bad place. And I think that's why we're told to love others as we love ourselves. Mm-hmm. And in Matthew 6:33 tells us to seek his kingdom first, and everything else will be added unto you. And so what Sara was saying about doing the good that's in front of you, and then he comes in and takes care of the rest. It may not look like we think it's going to look like.
Oftentimes.
But he always does take care, for sure.
Both of you said that you were raised, as in a Christian home as believers. You were raised with that being the foundation of who you are and your identity. And I know a lot of people that were as well, me included. But it's still overwhelming, and it's still sometimes hard to dig through the chaos of our lives, the chaos of all the opportunities, or at the voices that are out there to really figure out what is it I am supposed to do. What, looking back at your lives, could you say was the first clue that pointed you in the direction that you have ended up now building the life you have?
I mean, it comes from the helping thing. That was just something that our family did. Like, I remember going to buy groceries for kids, and one time my dad and I even cut down a cedar tree in our pasture for a family that didn't have a Christmas tree. I mean, it was very simple. Looking back on that, it was that was a really
sweet gift. Yeah.
Well, it was simple, but it really made a difference in those kids. Yeah. But I also, I carried a baby doll around, like past the age, like, so caring for kids and being a mom. And I've always thought foster care was just, those people are angels, that get to take in kids and send them back to their families and stuff. And so in a way, it's not real. In a roundabout way, that's kind of what we're doing. We're able to help them with that. And we wrestled with that for 9 months, trying to figure out how to bring these kids here. Yeah. And we couldn't do that. And so that was the next best thing.
Yeah. Providing for them in their culture and their community. Yeah. And their heritage. Yeah. I love it.
Yes.
Krista, what about you?
I would probably have some similar stories as Sara with great examples from family. When mentioning the month I spent in the Philippines, that changed me completely at the age of 18. It took quite a while for me to come back around to that, and I had wanted to go into fashion design way back when, and then I met a guy at college and got very distracted, and it's okay. Yeah. God brought it back around to where I could use the fashion design to do something in this capacity.
Oh, I love it. My husband and I were even talking about today how, and then Cindy and I, even before you guys got here, how God will use even mistakes or what seems like mistakes. And if we look back, he can weave it all together to create this life that we never even dreamt of or imagined. And what I hear you both saying is just really evaluating like what's always been there, and the heritage that you've been given by your family is one of the obvious places to start. And I love that as a parent to think through the impact that we have with just those eyes that are watching us every single day, just to even begin there. Like who is your community of people? Is it your kids? Is it your neighbor? Whatever. And what can you do to influence them to join you in doing something positive, to join you in doing something generous and good? I like it. What correlation, tell me, what does you guys, I mean, you hear you're supporting an orphanage in the Congo and you're starting this preschool in Cambodia and supporting vulnerable women. And that sounds so grandiose, but I've sat with you, we've had these conversations. You're just normal, everyday people. So tell me, how do these seemingly huge things work with your every single day in, day out lives?
One day at a time. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that that's how this was going to go. I mean, I didn't know. But like you said, looking back, I mean, I've spent years helping grow things and take care of things. And who would have thought I'd have married a landscaper and I was a farmer's daughter, and here we are. And I'm able, it's conducive to what we do. Like we homeschool, or my kids help. We're always at home. And so being able to just do something on the side and raise money for our Congo kids, like that's the whole thing.
I'm supporting 29 children in the Congo on the side. Well, no, I'm saying it's beautiful. And that's like, give me a day in the life. Like, tell me a little bit about like what that looks like.
It just looks like, I get up early and I try to talk to Siddiqui, like we text.
He's at least the one in charge.
Yeah, he's our on the ground guy. And he's also, it's kind of neat. We're almost exactly the same age, like within a few months. But he also has another full-time job. Like he's a translator for a UN, so we just understand each other.
Yeah.
So when we need something, it's just quick, or we do have heart-to-hearts. So I get up and I work on flowers, and I wake the kids up. We do a little bit of school. Then, they continue to do school. I'm cooking and doing flowers and delivering and I don't know, answering emails, and it's just but every day's different, and I really like that. I like that every day's different. I don't really think about, I know you said that too. I don't think about this is what I'm doing. I'm just, this is what I need to do today, and this is what's in front of me. So, yeah.
I love it. Krista?
We're in a transition right now since we've moved from the sewing program into the preschool. The sewing program was, beat on me every day. Sales and getting ready for the next trip over and what we were going to do. Right now I'm figuring it out, fundraising, trying to get partners to help run the preschool. So I'm just trying to get meetings together, and it's not every single day. Sara, do you have a lot of sleepless nights? Do you lay in bed and...
Usually I crash, but I sleep I need to sleep more. I always have ideas.
Yeah, I think way too much at night. Yeah.
But
or
this
worry.
this season, I just lay down and I go to sleep.
Tired.
But then I always wake up about 4:30 or 5 o'clock. I'm ready to go again. So just keep that up.
What does your the community that's around you? Because I've seen you both in action, and then just hearing just the stories that you tell. You have a lot of community support. You have a lot of family support. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like? And what is the impact of having that community in your life supporting you?
I don't know if I'm in the right emotional state to talk about this. That's an emotional subject, I will be honest, because people that keep showing up, keep buying our flowers, like we have a farm to table. I just thought maybe we can get 40 people there, you know, and I mean the first 4 or 5 people that from church, friends, in our community, or just people that keep coming back over and over to our flowers. I knew they'd want to come to the flower farm, and our family, of course. I mean, the first 6 or 8 people that I asked, they were like, "Yes, we'll do that." I mean, I'm always surprised, and I don't know why. Like, I always say that God keeps bringing the people, and He really does. And so I didn't touch on this with our faith walk, but like, I know He's with me. Like, I talk to Him all the time, and I know He's there, and so Him just continuing to putting the funds in place and the people there, I mean, that keeps us going, and our kids, like our Congo kids, like they can see that. They see the support, and that, I mean, they're so grateful, but I get to share that with them. I get to say, these people showed up. This is what they did. Yeah. And that's real touching for them.
And showing up and buying a $12 bouquet of flowers is a direct correlation to one of those 29 kids eating a meal or being safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Krista, what about you?
I wouldn't be anywhere without my community. So I know that God put them around me, but we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. And the people who've traveled over there with me come back, and they're some of my best fundraisers because they've seen it firsthand. Yeah, and it is the same people a lot of times.
Yeah. What would you say to the ones who are saying, "Well, I just support you. I just write a check. I just buy flowers"?
There's no such word.
It takes all of us. Like when we started this, I wanted it to be, we started with change jars. That's what our nonprofit is called, Change for Congo. And so, you know, in a pint-sized jar, you can fit $30, $40 worth of change in there. And most people have that in their laundry room, you know. And so, I mean, I always hope that supporters, like kids that give a little bit, families that give a little bit, like that we can all, it takes all of us. That little bit comes into this amazing pile that is always there. You know, Lord willing, it will always be there, but He keeps providing. So, yeah, it takes all of us.
You both talked a little bit about not sleeping enough, you know, either laying awake with ideas or worry or whatever it is. So my question is, I'm just trying to put myself in your places where you have these people in another country, you have language barriers, you have just so many obstacles that could potentially be in the way. Do you ever feel heavy, overwhelmed, not equipped? Because I know I would. I know that I would feel that way maybe on a daily basis. And if you do, you're nodding your heads, then what do you do in those moments, and what do you do to keep going?
You go ahead.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I have to talk myself off the ledge that I'm relying on myself too much in all of that. If, you know, when God's ready for it to be over, it'll be over. There's nothing that's going to keep it from happening, me or anyone else, but I still am very tempted to think it's me.
Yeah.
Have y'all heard the starfish story? It's one of those things that talks me off the ledge, where the young boy out before dawn on the beach, the starfish had been washed in, but the tide was out, and he was throwing starfish in, and an older man caught up with him and said, "What are you doing? The sun's getting ready to come out. Look at this beach. It's littered with starfish, and there's no way you're going to save all these." And he picked one up and he threw it in the ocean. He said, "It matters to that one."
Yeah.
And so I just have to come back to that one person.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
So
we
good.
know that God takes the loaves and fishes and he multiplies it.
Yeah. I love it. Sara?
Prayer is a big part of my life. I know it is probably for you too. You know, we're here, we're talking about these things, but even though I am at home, being outside, watching things grow, watching the little, the little ladybug larvae eat the aphids off of my flowers, like all of it just working together in this really great circle. It just, I don't know. I can't, that keeps me going, you know, and when I think like, that I don't have enough in me, like I'm out of juice, I'm out of, like something happens. Like I mean, we've talked about this, a check comes or I get a text, like I can think of times that I was, you know, just, I'm not going to quit these kids. That's not an option. But sometimes I feel like maybe I am trying to do too much, and then somebody calls or they need something. So it's just that constant, no, it is not a constant reminder, but when it does happen, God shows up over and over.
Oh, I love that. Both of you have really, in our pre-conversations, talked about how sometimes we get hung up on, you know, this idea that God calls us to do things we're going to just hate. Can you speak into that a little bit? Because you both seem to really love what it is that you do.
I think he's going to challenge us. I think we're going to be uncomfortable at times. But I think he's going to use our desires and our passions and our talents. And he knows what we can and can't do. And he'll take it as far as we want to go. I think we put the faith out there and he'll meet us, or we can shrink back. And he says, okay, we'll stay there too.
We sometimes get hung up thinking that God's going to call us to do something that we don't enjoy or don't like to do.
Oh, yeah.
But you both have really shown me that you love to do what you're doing.
Well, because it hasn't always been that way. Like not with the flowers, but that's when that came, that was kind of a release a little bit. Like, I like being outside. I can do this. I can grow flowers. I can give you flowers that are beautiful for something that is beautiful somewhere else, you know?
Yeah.
And so I remember, you know, thinking like, I do not want to ask one more person for money, but this idea of doing something, you know, giving them something in return. I know you've talked about that too, Krista. It gave me something to do with my hands, gave me something that was kind of mine, not mom mode, you know? And, so that's where we are there.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been,
More enjoyable some days than others, but
there are days when I think,
Absolutely.
What did I do?
Yes.
Yeah. In saying that, like, what are the vulnerabilities? Like, what has it developed in you? What has it exposed in you? What are the things that you have to wrestle with by saying yes to this in your life?
Balance. Like, I've talked to you all and people that I run into. They mean this well, but they say, how do you do all that? I don't know. Like, and I don't do it well. Like, there are days that I have like this enormous amount of guilt that I'm, you know, outside or delivering flowers, but that's where the community steps in. You know, my husband needs, you know, he's there, he's available. I just need to ask for help. Or how many times I've needed something and people like my mom, I mean, she just built onto our house, and so she's available, and that gives us time together, but we're doing something. So the balance of managing all that is it is a weak spot. But I don't know one person, right, that has it all balanced, you know. So I guess I kind of found some grace that I can give myself there.
Yeah, and sometimes it's in the tension of knowing that everything is so valuable and that you're looking at the balance, that tension's kept you focused in the right places. Whereas if you weren't having to think about the balance, maybe you wouldn't be as present with your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Krista, what about you?
Mine is finances.
Yeah.
I just am always scared that I'm not going to have enough money for everything, not just this, but it takes a lot of money to make this happen. And you have to ask people to help you make this happen. God has always provided, and so I don't know why I still wrestle with this, but I do.
Yeah. With both of you, I've heard you both say that you don't love asking people for money, but yet both of you have huge things that you're doing in these nations. Can you tell us a little bit, just like what's a budget that you're working with and trying to raise per year, per month, or however it is you break it down?
I mean, I always just say, like, we're responsible. We're responsible for about, it's right at $3,000 a month. A few months ago
for 29 kids.
For 29 kids.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So, and I know that that's more than some places, but that's just what it costs, Yeah. And so anyways, whatever we have, like, that's what we give. And so we started building on, like, finishing the second story. And so I've seen that continue to just be a little bit more cush in our bank account so that we can do that, like our Congo bank account. And
Krista, what about you? What's
our budget that we are proposing is $32,000 to do the preschool and a couple of OTEC programs for the teenagers. And honestly, when you think about, Sarah, you've got to think this too, our money, our US dollars go so far in another country. That's why it's not just a little bit of money. It is amazing how far our money goes and what hope it brings. What we may have to give up eating out once a week or our daily coffee stop can put a kid through school somewhere else and just offer them hope for the rest of their lives.
This is kind of throwing a new question out there for you guys that we hadn't talked about, but what would you challenge somebody to do? Like that, like just give up a coffee a week, or do you have ideas where people can just start by helping somewhere?
Do you miss $10 or $20? And I've got sponsors that have been $50 sponsors, and I've got some that are $400 sponsors, and they just, I don't think they miss it. Whatever your budget is, like, just start there. Maybe it's $5. I had a single mom give $5 a month for several months, So yeah, that's good.
I love it. Krista?
I would agree with that. Just start small. Don't overwhelm yourself by saying, I'm going to start with $400 a month and just watch it increase.
But that would be great.
Yeah, sure. If you can.
Yeah, but don't underestimate.
No. But it's okay to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
And give something up and a little more work for us. Maybe having to make a meal instead of eating out. But it's very doable. Very doable. Any money that we've ever given up, my husband and I don't even know where to say that we've missed it.
Yeah.
I love that. And another curveball here. What are the resources if somebody truly just is like, what is there in my community that I could support? Like, do you have any ideas of where people could go to even just find something that they could do that's good?
Our daily bread.
Which is like your feeding program in your communities.
Look on social media, like anywhere there's people doing things. Your churches, your community outreach, your neighbor, clubs.
Lions Meadow of Hope. If you call them and see,
homeless
what
shelter
can I
in your
do?
community. Love it. It doesn't have to be any one grandiose anything. I hear you both saying, just start where you are. Just start with what you have, even if it's change in your utility room. Gather it up and do something productive with it. I think as Americans, we can get in this really comfortable place, and we just don't see. Sometimes we don't see the world around us, and it gets overwhelming. So then we close our eyes even tighter because we don't know what to do with ourselves. And so just begin with opening your eyes to your neighbor, to what's in your backyard, to what's in your own pocket, and just begin simply, but just begin, because that is being a follower of the way of Jesus, being a follower in the example of what he set for us because of what he's done for us. Absolutely something.
Well, and ask for that. Like, be really honest, like very conversational with your prayer. Like, God, give me something today that I can look back and I was better at this when the kids were younger, of like writing out things. And man, I look back on those journals.
Writing out your prayers.
Yeah. And they're not, some of them are all the way written out. Now it's more like bullet points.
Yeah.
But looking back and seeing where he was, or like, I was praying about this and this is how he answered it, or we didn't know what we were going to do here, or we had the farm to table thing came because we were adding that second story. I'd been thinking about that second story, finishing it out for 2 years, you know? And so just praying, say, God, give me something right now. It could just be helping a person on the side of the street to strike up a conversation,
I love it.
You can pray, increase my faith.
Yeah.
And he will.
Yeah.
But it's not easy, right?
No.
Neither one of you are telling me this is easy. Yeah, but it's worth it. So we're sitting at this table that we're doing this podcast on. It was my grandmother's table. And if you listen to the podcast, you know how important that this particular grandmother was to me. And honestly, she's the epitome of what you're talking about. She didn't even like to travel out of state, to be honest. So, she was very local, but she would show up at any place that had any need with food, just something really practical and tangible. She would say she didn't have words, but she would just show up with what she did have, which was an incredible ability to make food. And so many people at her funeral told me the impact, which I guarantee you has impacted inevitably people around the world because of all of the people who know Jesus because of her. And she would tell me that all the time. She'd say, honey, I just want the whole world to know Jesus. So my question to you is, what do you want the world to know?
Do you want to go first?
Jesus is worth it.
That's good.
That's sweet. I would just say, like, extend mercy to people. Like, everybody's working on something. I tell my kids that all the time. We don't all have it figured out, but just, if you can, like, I have to work on this, but give people the benefit of doubt, and try to, I don't know, make things easier. It seems like it's easy to make things difficult, but extending that mercy on people daily.
That's good. You ladies are so refreshing, and just knowing you has really encouraged me, and it's also challenged me, and it's made me think through a whole new lens of the impact that I am able to make on the community around me and a community far away. It has inspired my heart to dig deep and believe bigger. I am so honored that you've sat here with me today, and I cannot wait for that one person, that one starfish, that this is going to impact as they hear your stories and hear just your hearts, your humble, beautiful, generous, gracious, giving hearts. And we will have information listed if anybody would like to give to either of your organizations. We will have it in the description of this episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great.
If you enjoyed this podcast at all, please do me a huge favor and hit that like or subscribe button. Follow us and share us with anybody you care about.